Hi folks, welcome to Thursday's edition of the I Write Radio podcast, videocast. Well, I was certainly caught out today. It turns out there was an FMQs today. It wasn't yesterday. So we all managed to catch it. So we'll go with that and see where it takes us. Jimmy, your opinions on FMQs?
Well, I was a bit underwhelmed with the move to phase 2, if I'm honest. I think Scotland may have missed a trick with that one. I just think it's a bit overly cautious given what's happening. Given our numbers and given what's happening throughout Europe, I think not allow citizens a bit more freedom is possibly a misstep. Fortunately, your Tweedledum and Tweedledee for the opposition parties had already written their questions this morning with the help of their advisors before they seen the statement, presumably. So they went on things that didn't really relate that much to what was mentioned. So I think we had the unedifying spectacle of Jackson Carlaw getting put over Nicola Sturgeon's and having his bum spanked again, which, whilst entertaining, is a tad dull now because it kind of happens every week. I mean, she must have a row of Jackson Carlaws lined up on her mantelpiece. She must be sick of the sight of them. But as I say, I think she's missed a trick there, mate. I think she's being overly cautious given how good our numbers have been over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I know that people are desperate to use outdoor spaces, and particularly cafes, restaurants, pubs. They need something coming in because we're probably looking at around 50% of all of those sectors actually going under. So anything we can do to get some cash into their pockets, try and get a semblance of normality for people would have been good. I know she said that she's going to do it at the start of July, but look outside. We're getting some decent weather. Let folks sit in the sun and have a bloody coffee, Nicola.
Right. Well, I don't agree with you on that. Her being too cautious. Well, she's certainly cautious, but I don't agree that with this announcement she's been overcautious. She's surprised us with quite a few liberations, freedoms that we weren't expecting. She said that shielding out households got a bit of freedom.
She announced that last week, so we were expecting it.
And that she had announced something that affects me personally. I'm a single person. I've not been in contact with anybody else until yesterday when I saw my brother. I can now go and stay overnight with my sister if I want, which would be nice, which I wasn't expecting that. She also made, apart from that, disagreeing with you, I'm not going to go into the details, Jimmy, it's all right, a disagreement. However, it was quite interesting that shopping centres will not be able to open on the 29th of June, but like Ocean Terminal here in Leith, which could be absolutely devastating for Leith, because I wouldn't be surprised to see that place shut down in the medium term. But anything else more or less is going to open on the 29th of the month, so that's good news. The question of beer gardens, I thought I was quite struck that she made clear why pubs, restaurants and gyms are a problem for opening too soon, and because they're hotspots. Basically, that's where people get very close together, and infections, they'll probably know from other infections that's where they get passed around. So
well, she alluded to evidence for that, mate. I'd love to see her evidence because none of them have been bloody open. How's she got evidence that pubs are hotspots when the pubs have been shut for months?
I would imagine that there's
people that got infected after the nightclub opened in South Korea.
But they test for infections all the time for E. coli, C. diff. They'll know that places like pubs and gyms are places, swimming pools, these are places that infections do get spread around. Come on.
Oh, come on, mate. The swimming pool one's a misnomer as well. They're busily telling people that they can go in a swimming pool, but they can't sit next to each other out with a swimming pool. What the hell's the scientific evidence behind that?
Well, I don't know. I didn't know that we could
go to do with the chlorine in the water. I don't know.
Oh, is that it? I didn't know we could go into swimming pools. It was interesting about the face masks because that's going to be controversial. I'm not surprised that with the expectations for public transport, more people are going to be using public transport because she's liberated some businesses, some works, and they're going to be mandatory from a Monday on public transport, and then shops.
Face covering.
All right, face covering. So Monday for that is mandatory, and shops before the 29th of June. She wants people to wear them now, but we'll see. I think I was quite surprised.
I think her position on the pubs and that, I think, is totally understandable. If you want to have a drink with your mates, go in the middle of a field.
I'll be honest with you, mate. I think Nicola Sturgeon's the kind of person that's never had a good night out in her puff. In her entire life, she's been serious and projected where she's wanted to go. But I think she's missed a trick here. The nighttime economy is dead.
Well, Jimmy, I'll be honest with you. If I was asked how to stop the plague, I would ban drinking in pubs.
Norrie, we're all old. What's she done for the young people today? What's she done for people in their 20s and 30s? Absolutely nothing.
Jimmy, I'm
she's
sorry.
Ignoring these people. They're voters too.
If she's trying to stop a pandemic, opening pubs is
She's not trying to stop a pandemic, mate. Take a look at the figures. We're nowhere near a pandemic anymore. We're absolutely nowhere near it. Community transmission is running under 1%.
South Korea, one guy infected.
Aye, I know that, mate, but we're not South Korea.
Oh, what, you reckon half the guys we know wouldn't do exactly the same thing?
Community infection is running at diddly squat in this country. Almost 80% of the people that are getting it in hospitals or care homes at the moment. So why stop people sitting in a beer garden? I'm not talking about...
Because the beer gardens are shut. Nobody's getting infected in pubs and clubs because they're shut.
Aye, but outdoors, mate. Outdoors, how many people are catching it? How many people are getting it in this country in outdoor situations right now?
Right, so you want to open all the pubs that have got beer gardens?
I want her to open outdoor space so that people can use it, mate. I want her to consider people under 30 because clearly right now, she's not. She done nothing for them today. These people vote too.
Okay. There is one thing I got to say about that. You could be right, Jimmy, but on the other hand, from my observation, people under 30 have already been ignoring the rules for weeks.
Because the government are doing absolutely fuck all for them. They're offering them nothing.
So Jimmy, what you're suggesting?
Norrie, let me finish.
Sorry.
Most people that work in these places are in their 30s or less, and we are offering them no opportunity to earn or go out and enjoy themselves. What do you expect them to do? Do you expect them just to sit indoors and do their fucking knitting like people in their 80s are doing?
No. Jimmy, you're asking the wrong person. Because
what I expect, Jimmy, is actually really simple. I expect the government to apply rules that keep the population safe, regardless of how pissed off some 25-year-old is because he can't go clubbing.
Well, they're not applying the rules, are they? Because they're allowing demonstrations in Glasgow, for example, yesterday. So they're applying the rules that they feel that they should apply and absolutely ignoring other rules about social distancing when it suits them.
So effectively, you're doing a two wrongs makes a right.
No, I'm saying that I don't think the government have thought this through. I think particularly when we're running into July, come on, that's the only bloody time that Scotland gets a summer. And you're telling everybody, Ken what, you can go and sit in the park and have a bottle of wine, but you can't go and sit next to your pal outside a pub on the shore and have a bottle of wine. Madness, mate.
So and
as I say, all these businesses are going down the tube, so you're looking at people in their 20s and 30s who are looking, I've no job now. I've no prospect of getting a job till maybe next year.
Okay, let me ask you the question I would like to ask Jackson Carlaw. What number of deaths is acceptable?
Probably somewhere around about 5,000, mate, because we're about 4,000 now.
Right, so you're happy to see 1,000 people die. So
well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen anyway, mate.
And go to the pub.
It's going to happen anyway. It's not about going to the pub. It's about letting people live some kind of life. They've been bloody stuck indoors for months. We've got numbers now that describe community infection as almost not there. and there's no letting up on people. They've Ken what, Nurry, they've still got their knee on the throat of people that are under 30.
Or over 70.
If you're over 70, you've lived a life, mate. Eh? These people have no life to live.
Well, thank you very much.
When was the last time you voted Tory, Jimmy?
They've got no future in front of them, mate. Right now, the government's offering them nothing.
Sorry.
Well, I've only got one thing to say about that. I mean, it was, you could see into the future. The moment this pandemic arose, it was obvious the first places to be shut would be pubs, restaurants, and gyms. And it was obvious these police, half of them would shut down.
Why do you keep mentioning gyms, mate? Gyms are open. People can go to a gym now.
This was obvious on the very first day that this pandemic became obvious. I don't know why you're surprised that this is the situation.
I'm not talking about opening pubs. Why do you keep babbling on about that? I'm talking about using outdoor spaces. It's June and July. We are wasting the only 2 months of good weather that Scotland gets.
Well,
I don't genuinely think they have.
Speaking of the council. I mean, you can use the outdoor spaces now. You just can't use the outdoor spaces that are attached to pubs.
Right. So, as I say, mate, you can go and sit and get pished in a park if you want.
Yeah, with my experience, I'm never going to criticise what you're saying, Jimmy, because on the basis that I believe strongly in what's called hydraulic theory. In particular, young people, if they can't go to the pub, they'll go to the park, they'll go to somebody's house, they'll still have a good time.
I reckon it's that kind of, let's call it, the rules are up to 10 because people will work to 8. So I don't actually believe the Scottish government believes that people are obeying the rules. I believe that nature being what it is, they know full well that only 80% of people are obeying.
No, that's a very good point, Nori, because that is, I'm sure that's when they sit there without the public over their shoulder, that is how they look at it. The 70 or 80% obey the rules, that's fine. They know fine that the virus gets suppressed. They don't expect everybody to behave.
No, that's why she continually does that, and I'd like to thank everybody for the terrible hardship they've gone through. You know, I mean, she should try living in a caravan in the middle of winter.
It's a bit chilly and damp. I've done that one as well. I've still lived in a car for.
Okay, can we slag somebody else now? Glasgow. George Square. What are we thinking? I noticed, I checked the papers today. None of the national papers have got it on the front page. Only the Glasgow Times. Racist thugs disrupt a silent protest.
Aye, that's a very unionist attitude to take to it.
Not even the National. The National's gone with Ruth Davidson's attack that we discussed yesterday. I was very surprised at that.
That's a deadwood press for you, way behind the times.
And then you've got the BBC, and I saw the what was published about that, and I saw Gary, BBC stalwart Robertson's response to it. His excuse was he wasn't working at that time. It's not when he's working. He's not obliged to put in any comments. Well,
their headline was what? Rival activists or something.
Let's be clear, I think Police Scotland missed a trick here last night.
They should have sent a lesson. They could have been there. They could easily have put in another 50 police. They must have known what.
Never mind an R50, mate. Never mind an R50. Go in there with about 400 police and kick the shite out of these bawbags.
Did they not police it like they would a football game, though? Is it not more likely that they're lifting the boys today?
We heard that excuse at the weekend, mate, but unfortunately nobody got lifted and they got today. That's 3 times I've done it this week.
Oh, there was arrests?
There was 6 arrests yesterday.
Aye, there were arrests, but I mean, what struck me was a number of people that were getting hassled because they had their cameras out, their phones out. Aye. Because the what's there obviously
is that James Kelly's never had a word to say about this since it kicked off at the weekend.
And James Kelly's never come up with a new format either, as he promised.
It was his getting rid of the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act that's caused this, because they think they can do what they like. Let's be clear, that mob yesterday are attached to Rangers, most of them. There's a few Jambos in there, but they're mostly Rangers supporters. And they think they can get away with it. Christ, I've no idea what the police are doing. That was always going to happen. I wasn't on the message board yesterday, but going to follow or something like that. These things are planned. So turn up with 2,000 police instead of a couple of hundred and kick the crap out of them.
I'd be very surprised if they didn't know exactly what was happening. And I agree. I think they should have swamped the area.
And to be honest, mate, I've no idea why policemen are running about holding their riot helmets in one hand. Stick your bonnet on and nut these clowns.
I think the fact that, to some extent, if this was really planned properly and not just a kind of thuggish reaction, I noticed on the pro-independence social media, they were already a bit scared about going on the streets again for a peaceful pro-independence march.
No, that mob didn't turn up, mate. Let's be clear. They turned up last night because they were attacking refugees and asylum seekers. They wouldn't turn up when they're outnumbered. They're cowards. They're ball bags. That's not the boys that would go and have a ruck somewhere. That's the boys that are bullies that hang on to the boys that would go and have a ruck somewhere. They're just to be clowns that turn up. The hangers on.
Aye. It's the same ones that hide behind the police at independence marches.
Well, they wouldn't turn up to an independence march in Glasgow, mate, because the last time there was an India march in Glasgow, there was about 80,000 people. They would not show up when they were that outnumbered because they're feared.
I did know it.
As I said, the police missed a trick. They could have lifted 100 people easily last night, hit them with massive fines, even hit them with custodials, mate, because with the emergency powers that you've got at the moment, you could hit them all with a 3-month sentence and they've not got the dough to go and appeal it. And if they do appeal it, under these emergency powers, you slap their appeal down. Just say, nah, no right to appeal, beat it, go to jail.
I noticed the way the crowd moved was interesting. Not at any point were they protecting any statues. Every time there was raised voices or a flare-up, they all ran for the fight, followed immediately by the police. It was like the Keystone Cops.
It's unfortunate that it's George Square, mate, because obviously that's why they plan it. It's almost impossible to kettle them in George Square.
Aye, true. Okay, that was what I was going to do. I wanted to show you a wee clip of Emily Maitlis last night. After both Jackson Carlaw and Richard Leonard insisting on plans, they both want plans with dates so that when the dates can't be met for whatever reason, they can criticize. It's transparent. I mean, they're not even subtle. But here's Emily Maitlis. No doubt she'll be getting a slapped wrist from her bosses for this.
Hello, good evening. Scotland has a plan. Wales has a plan. In England, the school strategy is seemingly in chaos.
So Emily thinks everybody but England's got a plan.
Well, I do find it interesting that BBC Scotland and BBC, as the rest of the country, seem to have a very different take on this. BBC Scotland in particular have had a Tory candidate on twice masquerading as a concerned parent. They've had the head of the PR for the Lib Dems on once masquerading as a concerned parent, and they've had 2 Labour councillors on masquerading as concerned parents. I wonder if they actually ever get in touch with real parents, parents that don't have political affiliation.
It's their duty. It's written into the charter. They've got to save the union.
It's not quite as blunt as that, Stuart.
It more or less is. But
I think it says something about unity. But yeah, you're right. And that is a new piece, this new charter that it was written. It wasn't considered necessary before.
you're right about their idiocy that they desperately want Nicola Sturgeon to hand them a stick and say, right, I'm going to have our schools back by 31st of October. By Halloween, we'll all be back and we'll all be riding about on our brooms. And at the same time, I'll offer 100 grand to Jackson Carlaw to go and get a makeover because he desperately needs it. But she's not going to do that. She's not stupid enough. The problem, we've said before, the lack of ability in Holyrood from opposition parties is startling.
Well, that's my cue to come up with 2 or 3 quotes from the First Minister's response to Jackson Carlaw in Holyrood today when she announced all the changes, the lockdown easing. She came up with some crackers. Jackson Carlaw was being a complete arse. I'm sorry if that's foul, but he was. Anyway, she said, Jackson is incapable of rising to the challenge of a national crisis. He's throwing caution to the wind. And in any case, when it comes to schools, we'll be 7 weeks ahead of England by August. So, I mean, it's like, do. Then she goes on.
They've now put the date back to September in England, haven't they?
That's exactly. So they're going to be, so the kids are going back to school in Scotland on the 11th of August, and they're going to be the end of September in England. She also said 2 weeks ago about Jackson Carlaw, she blows in the wind. He approves any U-turn as long as it's done by London. And then she brought out, interestingly, she really had a go about Jackson Carlaw had a real go at her first chief medical officer who fell foul of the rules, Kath Calderwood, and she had to resign. However, not a single word was heard from Jackson Carlaw about Dominic Cummings.
She actually put it really well. Jackson Carlaw led the charge against Dr. Calderwood and lost his tongue when it came to Dominic Cummings. I thought it was quite neatly turned, the phrase, I have to say.
I mean, she had more wonderful lines, but I thought she performed very well today.
You've got to wonder where Carlaw's getting his advice for and who's writing the questions for him, because he went on Twitter a couple of times a day having a pop at Kate Forbes twittering when she could be running the economy. And Jesus, Jackson Carlaw tweets must be about 15 to 20 times a day, apart from when the Tory party down south are in deep turmoil and he's not been given the line to go on yet, because at that point his account just goes silent. I think Forbes is usually once or twice a day max.
Whoever's running his Twitter account, I hope it could well be the same person that's advising him, because he does the same thing every time. He goes, we need blah, 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 blah. So I always tweet back the same thing. That's great, Jackson. Give us your costed plan to achieve blah, 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 blah.
Look, obviously,
I'm surprised he hasn't just barred me.
Yeah, but
he must have done it 50 times now.
There's somebody we know who's obviously decided that Jackson's not even been bad enough. Ruth Davidson. She decided to stick her head in a bowl of. She had a go at a public health official who, as we've already mentioned in previous programs, is a respected expert. There you go. Davidson sparks fury over attack on a virus expert. She's, and we've covered her already. This expert, Debbie Schroeder, professor, an expert in the field of this virus. And she's been on countless international television stations. She's widely respected. And what does Colonel part-time Davidson go? She both boots in there and has a go at her. It just doesn't look good.
Well, the expert was on Newsnight last night. I don't know if you caught it. Jimmy, you're a Newsnight fan, are you not?
Nah, I was doing other things last night, mate.
I would like to, as we finish, remind everybody that the Russia report that should have been out in October, November last year has still not been published. And Sky had a wee word with Dominic Rab. Here's a wee clip for you. Oh, wait a minute, got myself confused.
Just after watching the football last night, would you take a knee if you were asked to?
Hartley Brewer.
Do you know what? I understand this sense of frustration and restlessness which is driving the Black Lives Matters movement. I've got to say on this taking the knee thing, which I don't know, maybe it's got a broader history, but seems to be taking...
Sorry, guys, it is the wrong clip.
That was this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still indicative of Dominic Rab being a horse's ass and nobody knowing what he's doing.
Where is it? Oh dear, I've lost it. I don't have it. Sorry, folks.
So what did he say?
Basically, he was asked about the Russia report. And she said, you've read it. Is there anything in it that, you know, indicates that Russia was interfering with our election process? And he went, well, I've read bits of it. And she said, but you're the Foreign Secretary and you're telling me there's nothing in it and you haven't read it. And he, you know, did his usual, just stumbled all over the place. It was unbelievable. It's so indicative of what I hope is an inability to communicate by this cabinet, but I fear is just innate stupidity.
Yeah, I think they're all doing their job to the standard that Dominic Cummings wants them to do their job, which is poorly. He doesn't want them to be fully informed. He actually wants their chief assistants, who have all been handpicked by him, to be the ones that are actually running the department rather than the cabinet minister.
Well, it is like there is a plan that they don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm. Well, it gives them a level of deniability, doesn't it?
Well, the only plan I'm aware of is the Steve Bannon, the Elliott's, that plan.
Well,
I think you might have to widen that a bit, Stuart. What plan's that? Is that the fascists are going to take over the world plan?
Oh, God, yes. Well, they're always going to do that, aren't they? We could go back to the Koch brothers. We can go, as I say, the Elliots down at Tufton Street. We could Dominic Cummings. We've got all that evidence with Cambridge Analytica. God almighty, there's a trail of evidence that these guys, the right wing, are at it.
I didn't think they really want to take over the world. I think the likes of Dominic Cummings wants to take over government for a couple of years just to take as much money as he can out of it. When you look at things like that company that got 108 million to supply PPE, and they basically didn't exist the day before they were given that contract. Well, they did on paper, but they hadn't done any business for months, and they suddenly got a government contract that size. Well, at that point, how much went on PPE and how much went to the people that gave them the contract?
Well,
we'll probably never find out.
For the political party that's supposed to understand business, they haven't made some absolutely, I mean, everything from ferries to PPE.
Well, I like to throw in I've got to throw in the possibility that these guys that are running the show at the moment have actually got nice directorships, links to the other businesses that we're not hearing about that are actually getting the contracts.
Oh, I've no doubt there's backhanders right, left and centre, especially with this government, because it's very apparent that it doesn't matter what you do. It matters whether you're one of the team. It matters whether you're a Brexiteer, and that's all that matters. You seem to be able to do absolutely anything, including leaking documents that once upon a time was traitorous and would have got you jailed.
Aye. Both Gavin Williamson and Priti Patel, even in Blair's government, if they had committed the offences, because they were offences, if they'd committed the offences that they'd committed, they would never, ever have been made it back to cabinet.
Well,
they would have had
Priti
whip
Patel ran her own foreign policy.
Right, they'd have had the whip withdrawn permanently so that come the next election they weren't standing as a candidate. There's no chance that they would be forgiven and brought back into a cabinet position.
Well, in a previous administration, there's a possibility the likes of Gavin Williamson would have been prosecuted.
I mean, Blair kind of started it really when you look at what he let Peter Mandelson away with. Because Mandelson was he was Blair's best buddy. He was his mentor, and he got away with a hell of a lot. Let's be honest. But since then, the Tories have made a fine art of allowing absolutely anything to go, and politicians that. God, I'm old enough to remember when Lord Carrington resigned on a point of principle. When was that? 82. That's the last time that happened in this country.
Well, I mean, it brings up a very interesting article in the New York Times today. Not many people read the New York Times, but it's being referenced back here in Blighty because it's.
Hold it. You can call it Blighty if you want. I would never, ever. Blighty's England, mate.
I would like, on behalf of James and myself, to totally disassociate ourselves from that.
Aye, absolutely.
I would count all those reprobates who caused the trouble in George Square as part of Blighty, rather than a piece of land. It's a point of view. Anyway, what the people in New York are reading about the British government's management about this entire crisis is apparent. It's laughable. It's appalling. We don't get this information in the British media. I'm afraid, guys and gals, you're going to have to go abroad to get the full story. But what they're reading about Britain today is just laughable.
Well, the only Times that you shouldn't bother reading is the London Times, because the Irish Times and New York Times have got a lot more information. That article in the New York Times was interesting because they went to people on the ground to get their quotes and information. And the people on the ground insisted on anonymity because they knew they'd get fired if they told the truth publicly. That's where we are. You cannot tell the truth because you lose your job if you do.
Well, it is like Russia. It's the way we used to regard Russia. This country is now the sort of the Russia of Western Europe.
And I don't see any of our journalists, with honourable exceptions, but the vast majority of them are quite happy to toe the line to pay their mortgages.
Well, if you toe the line well enough, you get promotion and you end up a job like Laura Kuenssberg.
I do have to say that it's an argument for people with private incomes to be journalists. I don't suppose there's too many left-wing private incomed journalists.
That would take us back. That would take us back to 200 years ago, when it was only people with private incomes could become scientists or could afford to be writers. Well,
scientists are a lot more useful than some of our journalists, that's for sure.
Or either that, or they had a very expensive benefactor.
Well, it was true of MPs back in the day as well, because they weren't paid. But that is, I've just stumbled into that thought actually. That is where the Tory party still live.
Yes.
It's not about earning a wage and looking after your community. It's about power and pocketing as much as you can.
It just occurred to me that this so-called elite, Dominic Cummings represents this attack on the elite, and yet he comes from an elite background. It makes me think of, like, just over 100 years ago, or 100, maybe more, 150 years ago, they used to have the Whigs and the Tories. And they were two of different elite gangs. And we now have possibly two different elite gangs fighting over the running of this country when everybody else is just trampled on.
I'm not sure. I have to admit, I'm quite like looking at the younger element of the Labour Party now. There's quite a lot of what I would consider genuine socialists in there. Not so much at the top end, I mean the sort of ragtag of the Blair government, the Blair era. But Corbyn has put some fire in the belly of the younger ones that are sitting on the Labour benches at the moment.
Who have you been talking to, Norrie? It's a long time since.
No, just some of the stuff. It's not stuff you see in the papers or on the telly.
Was it your barber that told you that?
No, I was just having a troll through last week.
I just noticed you've had a haircut and a beard trim, so I thought it might be in your barber you were talking to.
I'm saying nothing. But there are a few of them in there that are still Corbynistas at heart, I think. Not a lot, but there might be enough. There might be a kernel there.
Be interesting to see their party membership numbers come December or something, mate, and see just how many they've maintained.
Well, they're going to be on their knees praying that a Jeremy Corbyn party doesn't arise. And they've got a long time. They've got 4 years to organise if they want to do it.
Have you got shares in the company that's got the job to repaint this plane? It's obviously just a small company, I would say, because it's only one plane. Apparently, the plane that the royal family and the Prime Minister used to fly around in is normally painted grey with RAF on it, but apparently it's getting a Union Jack or something.
It's getting painted red, white, and blue.
Oh well, and I knew, and
Only
also
costing, what is it, 900,000?
okay, well that's cheap. And then also I hear that Penny Mordaunt, who's a cabinet minister, she's saying yes, we need more than one royal yacht now. We need two, and they're going to take the money from. Now they've shut down the International Development Ministry and merged it with the Foreign Office. They're going to take the money from that and build a couple of royal yachts.
I take it that's one yacht for the Queen and one for King Boris.
I never saw the detail.
Catamaran, that way the Queen doesn't have to speak to him. She can socially distance permanently. We all know what a catamaran is. Twin-hulled boat. Yeah, okay. Anybody got a funny? Cheer us up. Jimmy, cheer us up.
No, I'm not going to cheer you up, mate. I was just going to suggest we build just something to read for the Queen. You know, so it'll fire nicely.
Iris boat.
She's not got long for the planet, eh?
What was that called? The Kentucky?
That was the one, just build a one-person Kentucky, and that way Boris can be the one that fires the bird and arrow when we push her out into the Thames.
Well, I think, mind you, all these unionists won't be listening to even second-hand what we've had to say today. Apparently, they'll all be playing "We'll Meet Again."
So, enough.
Popped her clogs, 103. She did well.
Jeez, Stuart. You know, we give us a warning when you've got to sing, man.
I think if we do build, if they do build a new yacht for the Queen of Britannia, they should call it the Titanic.
I'll make you a promise, mate. I'll make you a promise here and now. If that Tory party ever get public money to build a royal yacht, it'll never sail in Scottish waters. I'll sink the bugger before it gets into Scottish waters. Oh,
Jimmy, I could see you getting arrested if it ever happened. I think on the note of Boaty McBritannia, we'll leave it at that, guys. Thanks, Stuart Lockhead, Jimmy Hutton. I'm Norrie Stewart, and we'll catch you all tomorrow, folks. Thanks for listening today, and we'll try and get our day for First Minister's questions right next week. Cheers for now, folks.